Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Index podcast, where we come together every couple of weeks to discuss on-chain data, chart crimes, and metrics that move the crypto industry. Today, I have with me Hildobi, resident data house at Dragonfly,
Hello, everyone.
Denning, chief on-chain sleuth at Pantera Capital,
Hi.
and I am Boxer, the community powers at Dune. And before we start, nothing we say here should be relied upon as legal, financial, investment, tax, or even life advice. We're acting independently of our respective professional roles. And with that, we thought we'd gather just the three of us and discuss. What are we really discussing? We're discussing recent tweets from Vitalik about the advances in zk technology and how they can maybe solve how they've maybe solved the blockchain scalability trilemma, or like what that means for Ethereum. And for that, of course, we should kind of like take a look at said tweet. So I think, Denning, you've prepared a summary here.
Yeah, so Vitalik tweeted on January 3rd, which is pretty much even, I think, 2 days before everybody got back to work on that Monday. And we kind of started the year with kind of bullish narrative pended by him about Ethereum. So he was saying that now zkEVM is at kind of like a testing stage, alpha stage. It's production code ready kind of performance, not just only a theory now at this point. And there's also PeerDAS, which is another protocol change that is live from the very recent upgrade on mainnet now. He thinks that Ethereum has achieved solved the problem of the blockchain trilemma, which is another theory he kind of proposed like a few years ago, and I think it needs to be broken down here as well. But TLDR is that he was comparing the P2P network of Ethereum to other examples that has been successful in the past. For example, like BitTorrent, which had huge bandwidth, highly decentralized, but there was no consensus algorithm or like mechanism. And Bitcoin is like very decentralized. There's a consensus layer, but it's very low bandwidth. And so he's basically saying like Ethereum now with the two feature, one is PeerDAS, one is zkEVM, is better than both of those, and like kind of achieved this like impossible triangle problem that like other blockchain hasn't been solving. So I think like there are so many jargon that we need to break down. Boxer, you prepared kind of like a analysis, or basically a how to say explainer for Trilemma. I'll also later trying to like Eli 5, PeerDAS, and zkEVM. So please go ahead.
We'll try our best with our non-researcher hats. We are still just data analysts. It's a bit hard. But essentially, scalability trilemma, Vitalik actually coined this term in a blog post in kind of like the 2017, 2018 era. And this came very strongly kind of like at the like Ethereum was founded a couple of years before that. Bitcoin obviously had been around for a long time, and then suddenly there was like, okay, Ethereum has suddenly become useful. The ICO boom happened, and then suddenly it's like, okay, everyone is now building a smart contract chain, a generalizable kind of like compute environment for code that runs in a decentralized cloud. And suddenly it's like people were making claims of like, hey, we can be faster than Ethereum, we can be better than Ethereum, we can be more secure than Ethereum, we can do like we can be more decentralized than Ethereum. And it's like, okay, but the laws of, I don't know, engineering, physics is a little bit too low, but like the laws of kind of like the technological progress that the world had at the time. I mean, think about your iPhone in 2017. It was very different. And so was the zk technology that was available, or the networking capabilities that were available to kind of like computers all over the world, even processors and just like the base hardware. So at the end of the day, when you are designing a blockchain, or kind of like a blockchain network, or I think blockchain network is the best term to use here. You're faced with taking decisions about, do you want your blockchain to be the most scalable? Do you want it to be the most decentralized? Or do you want it to be very secure? And like those are kind of like three core properties of blockchains. And Vitalik essentially said like, okay, you can kind of only pick two. Like you can't be scalable, secure, and decentralized at the same time. And essentially what Vitalik says, you can't just say like, okay, we're going to max everything out. You can, for example, like Bitcoin is very secure and very decentralized. Other things, like I think the Solana people would probably scoff at me, but I think Solana is like, it's very scalable, and the decentralization is very like, oh no, actually it's secure and the scalability is very high, but the decentralization has suffered a bit because, like, frankly, Solana runs on probably like 100 AWS warehouses in the world and not on many other places. But that said, I think actually the decentralization of Solana is not too bad, but that's like a whole different conversation. I think just kind of like picking through the headlines, that's kind of like what you would say about blockchains. Those are good examples. And I think Ethereum has kind of also fallen on the side of, okay, we're gonna be secure and we're gonna be decentralized. And that, like, at the trade-off is, okay, when there was an NFT boom, an NFT on Ethereum 2 years ago, one transaction could cost whatever $100 just to mint an NFT or move some ERC20 token around or something. So now, kind of, I know we could go deeper into each of these sides. Do you think what are your questions from this point?
I think the main difference between like Ethereum and Solana is going to be Solana chose to not really look into having home validator, and therefore it is much more scalable. It's like something Ethereum has not compromised on, hence the different network throughputs between the two. And that's a good example, I think, of the trilemma.
Yeah. If we think about the episode with Nixo that we recorded 1.5 years ago in Thailand or so, maybe 2 years ago, she was all about like, okay, home stakers need to be considered and they really like are important for the network. And Solana like essentially has just said like, no, like this is, what are we doing? We're trying to build the internet financial markets, and this is not like, I don't care about like some guy in Kenya like trying to verify Ethereum, or like Solana, in that case Solana with his like 20-year-old laptop. Like this is frankly not the target user group, and I don't know, don't even try. But yeah, so this is kind of like, okay, this is the problem space that we're operating in. And now Vitalik has essentially said, okay, with the recent, so like this was 2017, with the 2017 technology stack, you can't solve this problem. But now he's essentially saying, okay, with PeerDAS and ZK, the advances in zkEVM technology, we have kind of, or like there's a way where we can solve this trilemma, and Ethereum seems to be, or like in his eyes, Ethereum seems to be uniquely positioned to kind of like profit from that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not profit. Vitalik is never about profit, but he thinks it's a good technological progress forward.
Right.
But so without compromising security and decentralization, how is more scalability achieved then using those two new things?
Yeah, I think so. Basically, now you touch the topic of what really is PeerDAS and what is really zkEVM achieving. So just to round it down, PeerDAS is peer data availability sampling. It's kind of like a approach where also like one thing to clarify is that it's right now only applied to blobs data. So it's really not about like how the nodes are like changing the way they're broadcasting and verifying like execution layer data for Ethereum layer 1, but instead it's more just about how all the layer 1 nodes, when they are downloading the data from Peer node, how can they just securely sample a certain chunk of the blob data for L2s who are using L1 as a DA layer without losing any like security, and also being able to reconstruct all the blobs execution. So I think this also touches a few features that, for example, like blob data are special in a way that you only need basically a few chunks and to be able to reconstruct the whole kind of like information. It's different from like initially I was confusing it. It was like saying having a partitioned file, which is different because how fundamentally low level the blob data are actually designed. So here, now that the Ethereum validators only need to download a certain chunk of data, it will allow a much bigger capacity of L2 data to be stored without actually overloading all these like home stakers validators. So in a way, I think like, is this like scaling L1? Yes, in the sense that L1 as a whole ecosystem with L2 living on top of it. It's not really just saying like we're scaling Ethereum layer 1 in terms of like the layer 1 block space. And what is zkEVM? We kind of heard about this like for a long time coming, and I believe in last year's core dev call in like Berlin, there was a lot of like decision or in like timeline put more clearly about zkEVM, and it's like aimed to be like ready to test in like 13 months or so, and like now I think in a year to 3 year time frame it will actually become real for all the mainnet users. And so zkEVM is basically saying like we now don't need the validator to re-execute every node when they broadcast the node. Instead, they just need to verify a zk proof coming from other nodes saying that the execution was right. So you don't need to replay all the opcode. You don't need to like re-execute all the contract calls and like all the transactions. Now you just need to run like saying this zk proof was matching and like verify that the pre-state of this block was whatever this like execution payload is will match the output of the post state of this block. And so it's kind of offloading a lot of this like execution computation to another row, in my opinion. So like if which is like the zk prover market. So basically like the prover now will have to actually do the re-execution, generate the zk proof, but now all the validator only need to verify the proof was real. And from there, I think like it kind of changes also the kind of like the whole supply chain stack with an extra row now. And so like Sync is one of those who have like a zk proven market that's live right now, which I think it's kind of like a signal where you know, like there could be a lot of usage and like potential for this market for people to build stuff on there. Obviously, there will be competition as well. But yeah, supposedly now, like basically all these execution layer and also like consensus layer supposedly is getting more scaled with these two, how to say, components. What are your thoughts? Like, do you think this, so first of all, any questions? And second of all, does really it's achieving trilemma, as he said?
In a way, yeah, it is. I mean, I guess it's not the original envision in that we're still throttled by compute limiting scalability if you want to make sure like it's decentralized and therefore distribution is taken into account and everything. But through, you know, this new technology and data sampling, it is another way to scale. But it's not really solving the trilemma. It's just making it a little less relevant, I guess. But it's still there. It's just the limit is higher now.
Aren't zk proofs like very computationally efficient? Like instead of actually recomputing whatever like something has done, you're basically offloading that to like, okay, this is like an easy method. Like right now, I think we're doing all the state transitions on all the machines all the time just to verify like, hey, these are actually valid operations. And now it's like, okay, we no longer have to actually do that. We can just kind of like zk proof this, and then we just check if the zk proof is all right, and then I think that saves a lot of compute. But I think this is outside. Like honestly, it's not for me to judge. I think like what does this tell us about like the broader development of blockchains, and like have we really kind of like reached a technological turning point where it's like, okay, now maybe like does the blockchain, like I think fundamentally, like, do we even need more block space? Is like more network throughput really what is needed right now? Is it like, is this really the properties that like, is this really bullish news for ETH? Or like, are we actually kind of like, are these more like BD teams and the kind of like human network effects, or like the more traditional, like, how do you call like met class, like you guys metal class? I don't know. There's some like economic term of like network effects, where it's like the internet gets more valuable the more participants it has, because like there's more nodes you can connect to. I don't know what this network, but like a network usually gets more valuable the more nodes it has. And like, isn't that like kind of the thing that blockchain depend on now? Like, is it really like these core tenets of like security, decentralization, and throughput that make a blockchain valuable or not? And like, is that really like the like, I don't know, it does, like, I mean, if we're, I think at the year-end episode, we've kind of established that Ethereum is still leading in DeFi, and anything important still happens on Ethereum. And then kind of like the meme coin casino and like the fast-paced trading that happens on Solana. And it's like long term, what is the more important thing? Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I think like the statement he had, like theoretically, it can be right in the sense that like zk proof does offload a lot of computation off the network without compromising security, because like zk is something that's like so big brand for me, but like basically when you just to verify the proof, you kind of achieve the same amount of like security, and basically you can how to say, like assure that this thing was correctly re-executed by just
Yeah.
verifying the proof. It's almost kind of like basically do the math, and the math formula can equate to like everything happened that was in this proof. So it's not like just trust me bro, and like I think there will also be like fraud proof kind of mechanism, or like some
Hmm.
kind of thing to make sure like the how to say the prover is not malicious or affecting the whole network. So I can see why he says like without compromising everything else, we're achieving more scalable state for Ethereum. I think that's a fair statement. But I
Yeah.
doubt like say how does this really like change the value prop, like as Boxer kind of implied, which is like distribution wise, it's a BD game. It's like, will this be more appealing for L2 to use Ethereum as a DA? Yes. But also then, will all the enterprise now use Ethereum as the layer for their chain? Maybe not, because they probably want to own their whole stack, like how Tempo and other payment chain and enterprise facing chain is doing, was they're gonna launch their own chain, maybe use Ethereum as a layer one. But then that also affects like how the economics, how it relates to the economics are designed, like how the gas, like are you going to tax L2 more? So there's a lot of unanswered question on if all this change actually going to change the outcome of Ethereum, even also like the price of the assets, I guess. I mean,
I
overall, it's
thought
great. It's great.
I think the bottleneck, what we saw with Tempo for now, with like Ethereum being used, usually the criticism is mostly the 12 seconds block, which is slow relative to what we need for a lot of applications. But aside from that, I mean, reading from like the Paradigm team and what they said and when they launched Tempo, like the whole announcement was basically revolving around like 12-second blocks. But I don't think there's any major blockers other than maybe throughput. If you have ambitions to have a really, really high throughput chain, but then you could use Alt-DA. So there's solutions to those issues, and I think we're past the point where Ethereum can't host those. Aside from, like I said, the finalization times for now, which I think there's discussion to reduce to 6 this year. I think it's either this or Fossil, which is gonna be debated on the two anyways. But like, there's plans to scale that as well. But for the rest, I'm struggling to see why you're like super reluctant to essentially fork an existing stack and use Ethereum rather than like build your own chain from the ground up, which is a lot more costly and a lot harder to scale.
Yeah. Just basically to echo on this, like neither PeerDAS or zkEVM is addressing the problem of like it's not raising the bottleneck of why it's 12 second. It's more just basically reduce the cost of a execution for validator, but it's not really removing block time, which is more related to like network propagation latency and like fork choice design.
Yeah.
So
But if everything gets cheaper in the whole supply chain, like computationally wise, wouldn't we be able to decrease the block times by like proxy of that as a second order effect?
It's just propagation. I think that's mostly the bottleneck.
We need another Ethereum researcher on this pod to explain this to us. This always.
I
Every
think
time we venture into like the consensus layer, we just like it starts being like half knowledge, half just guessing. So I think let's try to find someone. I think like from a kind of like market perspective, or like kind of like the high level take, I think are pretty clear. It's like does this really matter anymore? it seems to, because like as much as I don't know, the Solana people want to like put on this narrative of like, oh, like Ethereum is just building like whatever this decentralized world computer, and like they don't care about finance and they don't care about speed and like all of this jazz. Look at the stablecoin supply on Ethereum, people. Like read the room. Like there seems to be some property here, which is like, sure, there's like historical prevalence where like if you kind of like reshuffle the deck and Solana launches before Ethereum, would Ethereum kind of like come out as the winner like with that much clarity? No. But like, is there at least some aspect to like the decentralized nature of Ethereum where this is the only network that, I don't know, who's like a politically targeted person that Edward Snowden would trust their money with? I don't know if Edward Snowden is actually, but like, let's imagine I'm some whatever government dissident and I don't want my money to be seized in any case whatsoever. Do you trust Ethereum more? Do you trust Solana more? Maybe I'm a DeFi whale and I just like in times of market turmoil, I don't want my loans to be liquidated. So there has been cases in Solana in the past where, I don't know, just a lot of open lending positions have been liquidated or like they were basically unrecoverable. I mean, this hasn't happened in a long time, but like if you want the 100% guarantee that like shit like this doesn't happen to you and you're playing around with a lot of money that doesn't need to move fast, you're not a meme coin trader, you're just kind of like, okay, this is the financial infrastructure that I trust with my life. It's probably going to be Ethereum. Most of my funds, to be frank, just sit on Ethereum. So I don't know. I think like that kind of tells you something. I think the market, of course, there's historical prevalence, but like at the end of the day, we'll see how kind of like the institutions onboard to on-chain. Stripe seems to not. I mean, if I'm Stripe, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna launch my own payment network, and I'm not gonna care about like, oh, this needs to be the most decentralized and whatever secure. I mean, secure, yes, but I don't care about decentralization, to be frank. I'm just like, okay, I need kind of like a like reasonable level of credibility that my chain is not just gonna steal your money. But we can also just look at Tron or something like this, where it's like people don't seem to care that like Tron is just Justin Sun and his 21 doppelgangers. So I don't actually know if that's true. But like the same with Binance Smart Chain. It's just it's just Binance's chain. Like, who do you trust? Do you trust Binance enough? Seems like a lot of people do. So like I think all of these things, it's like there's like a scale to this, and like only time will tell if any of these things actually matter. It's a nice technological progress. The kind of rallying cries that I saw some ETH people doing on the timeline, I can't really get into that choir, but I do see why it is an appealing narrative.
There's a data piece we can look at, which is basically the DA layer comparison from Grow the Pie. We kind of looked at a while ago. Yeah. So I checked again, and it looks like if we look at data here, so for data posted, we do see actually in the past 1 year, well, this is a very weird outlier here on Celestia. I don't know, December 15 by Celestia.
Didn't somebody like publish the Epstein files on chain?
That was on the Ethereum blobs. Huh. So on Ethereum blobs, someone has been posting for a little over 10 days probably now, and it's going to take a total of like around 12, so they should be almost done. And it took like 20% of blobs throughout that time. It's like 4,000 blobs. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. Sorry, 50,000 blobs, something like that. And yeah, it was just the Epstein files, which is sure, I guess. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't think there's much to it. It's just like someone doing that, I guess, for testing or fun purposes.
Aren't the blobs ephemeral? Don't they get deleted after?
Yeah, they are.
It's so stupid. Well, why would you do this?
No, so they are ephemeral, but anyone can choose to store them, and all you need is a 1 of n to store it for it to be somewhere, right?
And wouldn't it be more useful to like upload them to IFPS and just like?
Yeah, fair. Well, I mean, then you have to.
I mean, I don't actually know much about the as long as Dune is around, but I don't think like the wide set of Ethereum validators will keep keep logging all the blobs of all time. Like it just doesn't make sense.
No, not all. Definitely not all. But there's a subset that have tried to commit to that, and maybe not like eternally. But anyways, I don't think there's much interesting things going on with like blob theme files.
I think like
Epstein files being on chain.
The March 2025 spike of Celestia here. I think this was like some Solana EVM rollup or something, and eventually their like airdrop happened or their incentive program ran out or something, and then eventually this curve just completely broke in, which is hilarious. I remember at the time there was like, oh, Celestia is gonna be the future and like everything's great, and now nobody cares anymore.
Like Eclipse, maybe? No, I haven't.
Yeah,
I think Eclipse.
This is really sad. Okay. Like it's like such a short-lived like spike, like artificial kind of growth of all these data being posted on Celestia. So for the audio listener, I don't know if they remembered, like we were having some kind of like DA layer scare, right? Like EigenLayer now have EigenDA, and Celestia was showing like there were way more data being posted with such much lower cost. There's another metrics here called fees paid per megabytes, right? MB, and it was like Ethereum was so expensive with call data, and then blobs made it better, but then Celestia is like way more cheaper. It's like 0.0003 past the 3 digits of zero, and was hundreds of gigabyte data posted. But if we look at this like total data posted over like a maximum time frame here, that spike really was only for December 2024 up to March 2025. So just a few months. And obviously people are farming for basically Celestia airdrop. And now like the token is pretty down, and the trend after has been just dropping, and blobs instead have been growing steadily.
I still think the LDA is very much something that we need. It's just that L2s in their current form have been being developed for a longer time, whereas like very high throughput chains or like app specific things where you need much higher throughput is still on the cusp of being really used in production as much as it could, and that's where LDA like Eigen and Celestia really comes in, right? But I still think in terms of usage, eventually it would make sense for LDA to have much more throughput than Ethereum blobs, because it's just like a slightly different purpose, right? Ethereum blobs, sure, are DA, but also a lot more. You inherit security and a lot more. And if you're down to compromise on that, you can use LDA, pay much less, and have quote unquote infinite scale, I guess.
Maybe one last comment on all this whole topic is that at some point I was a bit worried, like, or confused that if how data extraction will be changed from all this protocol, but not really, because all these validators will keep the copy of their execution payloads, and like so no changes for data vendors. To it might get harder to retrieve blobs, but for the Ethereum layer 1 itself, even though now like it's like they are not really executing the whole thing, it's just zk proof verification, they are still copying over the whole like blockchain data copy, even though they're not verifying and re-executing. So nothing really changed for the wizards.
At this point, it feels like the kind of like data retrieval stack and the consensus stack are like so far diverged anyways. Like you would never just spin up a Geth node to like do Ethereum like analysis. Like that would just be ridiculous. I don't know. There's like so much better tech available that Tommy seems to be pondering.
Do you have considered this?
Are you spinning? Okay, man, go ahead. Have fun.
Well, with Cloud Code, you can just, I mean, it's pretty easy. Just
no,
say,
but
hey,
like just from the, like, is this the most efficient way to do this?
It's not a scalable way, for sure.
We can, I don't know, maybe, I don't know if Andrew is still like on top of these topics. Has he released this like annual guide to, I don't think so. The man is busy with his own startup now. So then Denning has now the local job reporter. And with local, we mean anything that is data engineering or engineering analytics or any analytics job inside of crypto, essentially. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we thought that, like we are kind of like the only data-focused podcast in the crypto space. And we know our friends and audience are all like data nerds, and so we thought it will be very beneficial for our community here to basically just have some updates on the job listing, because we are the few people who has been here for a while, and we pretty much can outreach our connection to whoever. If you're looking for a job and like have a really good background or dashboards to share with us, we can refer you, and we can like help to break the ice for people who are looking for opportunities. So a few highlights here. We actually prepared this as potentially like a Christmas gift, but got pushed through recordings. So I updated the link. We'll keep updating this, but as of the moment, Privy is looking for an analytics lead, and our friend Karina, who worked with them, was like very enthusiastic. She can help refer friends, and so Fidelity is looking for a smart contract engineer / data science, which is kind of a lot to ask in my opinion. That's a
wide
weird
scope.
role for one person for one role. Yeah, I feel like it's basically like blockchain engineering / analytics. Yeah, and
Maybe they just want someone who like can read the chain data, and that's why they think they need like smart contract engineering skills. I don't know. That's a weird combination.
Animoca Brands is looking for a contractor for data analyst. I think is a Dragonfly portfolio. Dolby, do you know what they do?
Yeah, so it's like I think it's like a crypto game publisher, and also a crypto investment firm of sorts. They had a lot to do with like, I saw a lot about it mostly in the NFT era. I haven't been as clued into what they're up to lately, but yeah, it's definitely a big brand in the crypto space.
And Rain, I believe, is another new blockchain, also by Dragonfly. Was looking for a senior data analyst. Right, and then there are a few other bigger company like Circle is looking for a staff data scientist. Phantom wallets for Solana and EVM now is looking for senior data scientist. Base team is looking for a senior product data scientist. There's countless row at Coinbase. We have various friends. I think like Kofi and James can share a lot if anyone's interested about working at these teams. Dune is looking for a data engineer. Boxer, if you have a little bit more to share on that.
We're looking for someone to move like terabytes of data between various different public clouds. So this is like this is not analytics engineer. You don't need to apply if you're a wizard. This is like straight up just traditional data engineering. But still embedded within the Dune team. We sit at the intersection of everything that happens in crypto. It's very exciting.
I got hard drives if you need.
We've genuinely thought about sending hardware across, like sending data across the Atlantic via. It's crazy. Like try syncing like hundreds of terabytes across the Atlantic, man. You like genuinely are limited by the like undersea cables. It's crazy.
Maybe you need to use 00 or like some kind of
Hell yeah. Port code
Yeah.
there.
What that
Nice.
is that some crypto like storage solution?
No, it's like they're building the I forgot the English word for that. It's like how high frequency trading are racing against each other by building
They're building like new internet cable,
fiber.
glass fiber,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
This
It's-
is like
it's
some
routing
Solana
infrastructure.
associated product or like company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe would be nice.
And there's a few other company looking for data engineers. Data engineers are always, like a hard demand because you always need pipeline first before you can do any analysis. But this job board actually updates fairly quickly. I think like on an average, most of the team fill up the row within a month or so, month or a month and a half. And so like a month before, when we just had this in December, there was a lot of like Bridge, Circle, and like some DeFi team like Uma, Galen, Uniswap, but now they're all get filled. But yeah, check out the job board also from Dragonfly and Pantera. We both maintain like a website that's listing all the portfolio companies listings. So you can join our Telegram group chat to message us if you're interested in any of this. That's it.
The job boards in the Telegram chat will be in the description. And just FYI, those, I mean, I'm speaking for Dragonflies, but I'm sure it's the same for Pantera. Those are updated, and they're essentially like tracking portfolio company listings on their own websites. So it's like it gets auto listed. It's not. It should be as up to date as can be, and reflecting recent job updates. So yeah, make sure to regularly check there if you're eyeing a job in crypto data.
How do you guys feel? Is the job market hot at the moment for analysts, scientists, wizards?
I feel like it was hot for a little bit at the end of last year with all this like stablecoin chain and DeFi team hiring, but maybe haven't heard much from the beginning of this year yet. I also felt like the role demand gets more and more senior, which is a shame. I feel like we would love to see more new people come in crypto, but that probably all have to go with like a bull market.
It's a surprising dynamic how there's so much more. It feels like much more demand than supply for crypto data. There's a lot more job posts, but not many people necessarily to hire for those. So yeah, I think there's definitely still much of an opportunity to just get into crypto data, try it out. There's so many tools. All the tools are free. There's shit ton of stuff. Just follow a bunch of people that you really appreciate, that you think have interesting ideas. You can even, it's a very different industry if you're just getting around and like just DMing people here is like super normal. Is a super
nobody
accepted.
That's not a crypto will watch this. You can stop your inspirational speech.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, I'll fuck off now.
But I think for anyone who's made it this far, I think there's quite a few opportunities popping up, and I think I'm seeing people switch from like job A to job B. I think this feels like the cycle where people are just kind of like previously at company A, now at company B, just popping up. So like I think talent is definitely in demand, and now that a lot of people have gathered those like 3-4 years of experience that can like apply for the senior roles, I think crypto data as a whole starts to make more sense. We're no longer just having kind of random people who don't understand this stuff, but now there's actually like kind of like homegrown talent. We don't need to transplant some like data science people from like whatever Web 2. But rather people can come in with their kind of like the crypto native background and lead these functions. And I think overall I'm seeing less chart crimes on the timeline, and I think the data functions in a lot of organizations have really evolved positively.
Actually, I think like echoing on what you guys were saying, basically like the job listing or market is going in hand with like the cycle of the markets, which is like RWA stablecoin was last year, and now they're hiring, and or with some company that's kind of like found their product market fit, like Phantom, Circle, always is hiring and doing
Those are all pretty big companies that I don't know in crypto land. Those are fairly established, so it's I think fairly safe jobs and would be nice to start with or even continue with.
Yeah, we have a few June alumni at Phantom. They only say good things. That's all we have on the job market. Feels like the news report. I think that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening to the Index podcast. Join our Telegram, tell a friend about this podcast, let us know what you think, and we'll catch all of you in 2 weeks. Bye. Crypto data wizards, come join us for the parade. From Bitcoin ETF to Solana meme coin trade, uncovering public secrets in the blockchain shade. Bad chiller, cherry picking liar, we call them out and set chart crime on fire.